Welcome back to Picks with the Professor, the sports betting show brought to you by a real statistics professor. With me today, Cousin Jared, for Friday, April 4th, 2025. Some more baseball picks. Apologies for missing yesterday. There were only a few games and we only had a few picks. It's looking like we're about to wrap up a winning day, another 3 units, if I had to guess off the top of my head. We've been doing really well here this last week. Kind of stubbed our toe out of the gate a little bit. A rough opening weekend, but a much better week this week has been a lot better. Cousin Jared, thoughts as we wrap up another week here of baseball, our first full week, I guess, from Friday to Friday kind of thing. Thursday.
Yeah, we did kind of stub our toe coming out of the gate. Just had a little false start there, but it's baseball season is a marathon, not a sprint. No concerns at all. I mean, there have been throughout the course of a baseball season, you're going to have some really, really high highs and some really, really low lows. And it wasn't even like a low low. It was just a little trough there at the beginning, which, was fine. That's how it's going to be. But felt really good about how things have gone the past 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, I have too. It's been a lot of fun. I did update the slide, and I will get to 2025 on this viewer soon enough. It's early, and I'm still kind of behind on some things, so I have some ideas of how I want to kind of write some of the code to kind of handle this stuff. It's coming. It's so early enough. I don't think it really means a lot. I mean, we can look at the data. It's out there. It's public. But looking at last year's, and I made an adjustment. It's something I've been thinking about. And so thanks for the comment about that. This is very difficult to understand. ROI is very difficult to kind of figure out because our brains want to go to annual ROI. And so I've added the daily because that's a reminder that it's daily ROI. Because a viewer might sit here and say, well, what is the difference? And I would say, well, the difference is when you get your money. If you have daily ROI, you get that money every day. If you make $5, would you rather make it every day or would you rather make $5 every year?
Yeah, exactly. It's a continuous daily compounding of that. Like, when you look at a savings account and see the interest rate, that's over the course of an entire year. And this is like what you're talking about, a daily type thing. And assuming that I noticed one of the things you mentioned was generally a unit size, you can look at it as a percentage of your bankroll. And so, as that bankroll increases, those units are increasing, and then you're growing off of a larger number. And so, I think there's a lot of almost finance stuff in there that you kind of need to look at it through that lens as opposed to an annual return.
Yeah. And it's tough because an annual return is usually on your initial investment. That's the problem is I don't know what people's initial investments are.
Yeah.
Not about dollars, actually, with units, because some people would have what they call a 50 unit bankroll, i.e. every unit is 2% of their bankroll. Some people would have a 100 unit bankroll, i.e. 1%. Some people would have even a smaller bankroll, might go a little aggressive. I don't think I'd recommend that. So I put here, hey, we made 21 units last season. That's a 42% bankroll increase. That is assuming you have a 50 unit bankroll. That is 2%. So the reason I haven't done that in the past, viewer, is because I don't know how many units you have. But then at some point I was like, you know what? I'm just going to have to pick something and just assume it and move on because I want people to understand how good this is. But folks, that's not even the most impressive thing. The more impressive thing is the last 2 college football seasons. We've been up like over 40 units. So you're talking about almost doubling your bankroll there. We're up 20 units right now in hockey. And so the idea is we're making, 80, 100 units a year. And that's doubling or tripling your bankroll. And viewer, you might be like, that's nonsense. And I would say it kind of does sound like that. But we had 2 people in our Discord. And I don't know how many more out there who were talking about how they started off with a free bet and they're part of our Discord. They're part of our group here. They've been with us for a long time, and they've turned that into each one of them, around like $10,000. And I don't want to take all the credit for that because a lot of it is them. I'm going to be credit. They are fantastic at this as well. But, and it takes a lot of discipline and it takes, all sorts of stuff. But we've been here with them and helping guide them. And so whatever part of that I have had, I am so happy to be a part of that. And viewer, I want you the same thing for you. So if you're, hopefully, you're enjoying these shows and hopefully you're getting, good bankroll growth out of it one way or the other. Some quick reminders: player-based model ratings reflect the current roster. Average gains 100 higher implies more runs. We are projecting an average game. I was thinking about this, Cousin Jared, when we say a winning percentage of a team, what we expect. We're going to talk about one today where we're actually going to back a team that the model only gives a 42% chance in. And I'm thinking the thing that we need to sometimes remember, because baseball is such a weird game. The sports are weird. Humans are weird, right?
Yeah.
42%, right? We're going to win 21 times out of 50. So Cousin Jared, if they played this game 50 times and 29 of them, if one of them they lose 10-0, that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
What does mean something is across of all the games that we see, do we see a bunch of teams losing 10-0 that we think have a chance to win, right? That sort of thing. And so that's just the thing to keep in mind, that we're only talking a few games here, but one game, who knows what's going to happen. And of course, we finish with that anything is good, bad at the right price or number. So just kind of keep that in mind, that even if we don't think a team is necessarily likely to win, that might mean still that we think that they win at a higher clip than the implied odds, and that it's a long-term profitable bet. You say, they're only playing this game one time, I know that, but we are long-term in this for the season, and we're going to be betting a lot of these. And so in the long run, don't know if tomorrow's will win, today's when you're watching this, but we hope that in the long run it balances out. I think we've shown that across just about everything that we do here, which is a lot of fun for me personally.
Yeah.
If you're interested in the Honor Roll All Access Package, you can get this for all new low pricing, $29.99 per month, and the link in the show description, half off your first month. We've got 3 other great handicappers right now covering college basketball, covering will be the WNBA, covering soccer, covering baseball player props, NBA player props. This is just off the top of my head that I can think. And then, of course, you get me, Cousin Jared, and Jake there as well. So a lot of benefits over there, and just all sorts of information. Information's power. If you want to learn more, know more. We were talking today in the Discord, a great discussion about what happens when we give out a pick at a certain number and the number moves. If the number's better, hallelujah, that's amazing. If you can shop around and find a better number, absolutely. We encourage that. But what happens if it's not? What do we do? How do we handle that, right? Great discussions, because I'm really all about knowledge. Knowledge is power, and figuring out how we can be smarter and better bettors. Cousin Jared, I said a lot of words. Do you have anything else to add to that I forgot to say?
I don't think so. I'm glad to have somebody else here to drive the bus, and I can just listen and bask in all of the knowledge.
Of course, I have so much to say now. I haven't been here for several days because, of course,
you gotta get it all out.
We got to get it all out. And of course, we had the Thursday. I think I even got distracted. I'm like, squirrel over here. But, the storm's coming through Indiana. So we were, Jake was losing power last night, and we were down in the basement with our little ones, and it was kind of a mess yesterday. And then the day before, Cousin Jared, you did the solo show, obviously. Thank you for that. And you and Jake did the one before that. So y'all been taking care of things over here while I've been it doesn't really matter what I've been doing. Sleeping a lot, trying to get rest a little bit, but that's
taking care of yourself.
Taking care of myself, because it's still tough. We're going to start off here. Padres and Cubs. A couple interesting notes about this one, folks. Friday, typically you have no day games. This Friday is an exception because you have a bunch of home openers. This one being no different. But remember, folks, if you've been with us in years past, we talk about Wrigley Field, one of the most extreme parks for weather. It's because the grandstands are a lot smaller, the wind is a lot stronger coming off the lake, and thus the wind matters way more there than everywhere else. That's why a lot of times for the Cubs games, you will see just the money line, and you won't see that run line or the total, because those are correlated, as Cousin Jared, we talk a lot about. When we like to take the run line based off the total, they are correlated. We don't have a first 5 market. We don't have a lot of markets. We do have one market out right now. That's the money line market. That's what we're going to talk about here. Cubs have started off pretty impressive. Obviously, they couldn't beat the Dodgers, but I'm not sure, Jesus and 8 clones couldn't beat the Dodgers at this point. It's insane. And that's the same thing, though, with the Padres. We talked earlier about the Padres. We were a little bit concerned. I'm not saying those concerns are completely alleviated, but you have to view them a little bit different. The models really come around now and said, hey, we were skeptical, but notice that offense ranked number 5 now. And the model, we'll talk later about another team, the model's adjusting quick to some of this stuff. And it's really saying, man, this Padres team can't hit the ball. The issue is going to be the starting pitcher. Randy Vasquez, not really an elite pitcher, to say the least. Imanaga, I struggled with his name all last year too. A very good lefty, a much better pitcher. Bullpens, meh. Who knows in Wrigley what's going to happen? Those bullpens are not great. But the difference is the Padres offense is a little bit better. But Imanaga is the much better pitcher. That's why we think the Cubs are more likely to win than the Padres. We have them at 58% chance of winning. Padres only 42%, but this is what we're talking about, where value lies often is not who's going to win, because that's impossible to know. It's what's the likelihood they win relative to my risk and payout. The model thinks it should be priced at minus 140. We are taking the Padres at plus 149, about plus 150, about a dime of value on this one, according to the model. Cousin Jared, we love taking dogs. We haven't taken as many probably this year as I would have expected so far. We've got one here. What catches your eye about the Padres? You're hopefully getting us a daytime winner.
I wanted to talk about this game because, there's very few. I mean, at this point, we've done so many various shows that there's very few times that something sticks out to you. It's like, oh man, I was completely wrong when I said that. But the Padres, the first game of the season against the Braves, and we were like, this Padre team lacks some depth, et cetera, et cetera. And then what do? They go out and sweep the Braves. They sweep the Guardians, who are probably a pretty decent team as well. And so I really just wanted to take the opportunity to come back and eat some crow on this, because so far I've been wrong on the Padres, and definitely want your take on this as well. But for me, this is just Padres number 5 offense. I don't know if we looked at this on opening day, what that number would have been. I'm going to guess it wouldn't have been close to 5. I'm going to guess it was probably in the double digits at least. Because, we talked about Machado and Bogarts and Tatis and Merrill, and it's like, but then name somebody else. Okay, they got Erez or whatever his name is,
right?
But
yeah.
lots of contact. But you didn't really feel like there was anybody else in that lineup that really scared you. But when you get up to like number 5, it's like, okay, well, not only are those guys playing well, but then the other guys up and down the lineup are kind of doing their part as well. So I've just been very impressed with the Padres. The other thing is, I don't think that sideline has favored the Padres in any game so far this season, but it has made that turn now, and it's saying, hey, there might be something here. And I know that's when we like to capitalize, is when we see sideline make that turn. That's when we say we want to jump in. So that's kind of why I think the Padres are a good play.
Yeah, very well said. And we talked about that, I think, kind of either earlier this week or last week, that idea that, we kind of try to ride that momentum, in that if we're catching it first, we want to go ahead and get in and ride that wave as long as we can. And so that's kind of the case here now that we're, the models kind of come around with the Padres. And you make some good points about the hitters. And I think the issue a lot of times on that depth has really performed well, as you mentioned. The couple of the guys that we were nervous were going to get some playing time ended up that, like, the next day, I think the next morning, getting, sit down to AAA, which helped because they were able to bring up Jose Iglesias is a guy who I don't think was ready for that first little bit because he signed so late. He's not going to be a game changer, but just another good depth piece. Jason Hayward, Gavin Sheets, and even Cronenworth, I think now has kind of become that. But all these guys are all very just kind of average, and that's all they need, because the top is good. We knew that. We were just afraid that bottom is going to be just a black hole. And then we're like, oh my gosh, if you're only relying on Tatis and Machado and Merrill, it's like maybe Arias, but you're like, I trust Merrill, Tatis probably, but like we're worried about Machado. We're like, if anything happens to one of these guys, like they're in trouble. Yeah. And all of a sudden that depth has really just rode the coattails of those top guys who are obviously performing really well. It's been a great start if you're a Padres fan. This is also no disrespect to the Cubs. They've been a fun team to watch. Obviously Kyle Tucker, they're now one of our, at least for me, I always enjoyed watching him with the Astros. He was always a guy you loved having up. And again, we think the Cubs are more likely to win than not. This is all about the price. If we can play this game or a game like this, 100 times, and we're winning north of 40 of them all at plus 150, we will be long-term profitable. And so that's why we like the Padres here. Remember, if you're with us on Dub Club, you can get all that information. Pause this if you need to zoom in, because there's a lot of stuff there. I was able to make it bigger at the start of the season before pitcher stats added in. Maybe I need to shorten that a little bit to get it more viewable. But you will see here, we are thinking it's going to be a pitcher-friendly day right now. Mid-40s, wind blowing in at about 10 miles an hour. The park and the weather will adjust the runs by negative 20%. So we're thinking that it's going to be a low-scoring game. Might be a game with the total, we're thinking around 7.5. I have no idea what it'll be. And of course, that's one we're really going to want to see the update in the morning. That's exactly what I was going to say. Was normally I'm all for,
go ahead and use that weather data to make decisions. Not at Wrigley. Wrigley is one of those. I mean, there's a reason why the books don't post the lines.
Exactly, right? That's a great point, right? Like, if they aren't comfortable doing it, that tells you shouldn't be either, right? Because of the same reasons. And so maybe there are there are books I think that throw out numbers earlier.
Mhm.
But again, if you're sharper books, and that's what we're working with here, if your sharper books are not doing it yet, that tells you all you need to know. The places like FanDuel might throw it out there because FanDuel's very happy to take your money, because if you win too much money from them, they won't let you play there anymore. Speaking for a friend. So again, what should be a fun game here? Home opener, chilly home opener for the Cubs. We're going to take a chance with the dog Padres there. Yankees and Pirates. Cousin Jared, the model's really adjusting fast to the Yankees. Number one. Their offense was good coming in. We knew that, but now it's up to the number one rated offense. Part of that is the Dodgers now losing Freeman again takes them down another rung. And of course they keep scoring. They scored 9 here tonight. We backed them here Thursday night, money line and first 5. And, I always say the Yankees and the Dodgers are the 2 teams that if the model says back them, I'm going to do it, because it never happens. Except the model has been backing the Yankees lately. It's very weird. And the model doesn't even like their relievers at all. Not that it likes the Pirates relievers, but it just loves that offense. And look at the discrepancy between those offense. Obviously, the Pirates are rough. We love Mitch Keller, very good pitcher, very equal to Max Fried with regards to how good they are. It's just all about the offense. And so we've got the Yankees winning this 64% of the time. And thus that is going to put us on the Yankees minus 147, 30 cents of value, according to the model in the home opener here for the Pirates. A 4:12 p.m. start because of the planned pregame festivities, about 60 degrees, no real wind to speak of. Cousin Jared, I mean, is this all about the torpedoes at this point?
It is all about the torpedoes and the bowling pins and whatever you want to call them. So, viewer, just to take y'all inside baseball here, we when we think about making picks for this show, we try to change things up. We don't want to talk about the same teams over and over again, yada, yada, yada. And in the past, I mean, I feel like I could probably count on one hand the times we've been able to talk about the Yankees or the Dodgers as far as picking a side. I'm sure we've talked about them with totals and everything.
Totals, yeah, for sure.
But not necessarily picking a side. And so I saw that there was an edge on the Yankees, and I said, we're going to talk about it, because I don't know how many times we're going to get the chance to talk about it for the rest of the season. I mean, yes, the Yankees relievers aren't great. The Pirates relievers aren't great either. And the pitching matchup, I mean, we have been Mitch Keller's number one fans for a couple of years now. But I mean, this is our boy.
I mean, maybe I feel like his mom and if he's married and if he has kids, maybe we're behind them.
Yeah, well, I don't know. We've talked about him a lot. I mean, maybe above his wife, probably his mom. His mom's probably been talking about him for a long time.
Yeah,
maybe his wife.
Yeah. Depends on how long they've been married, really.
Yeah, I don't know.
If he has, I don't even know if he does.
Yeah, I don't know what his marital situation is. But this is Max Fried, whatever. Fried. One of the best pitchers for the past handful of years now, was so great for so long for the Braves. Even as much as we love Keller, I think we loved Keller relative to what the market was pricing him.
Yep.
And Fried is just flat out good. And so I feel like this is a slight edge to the Yankees in starting pitching. Of course, the offensive edge there. This is just, this just feels wrong. And baseball, anything can happen. We talked about, we only project one game. We're projecting an average game, and one game, anything can happen. Yep. But man, this just feels like a huge mismatch, I guess.
I would be shocked if this price is anywhere near this come first pitch. Especially with the Yankees again winning, and we made this pick in the middle of the Yankees game. They had already scored a bunch of runs, but we made this and sent this out to everybody on Dub Club. So if you're with us on Dub Club, you already know this, as opposed to seeing it the next morning by the time you're watching this. The models is minus 177, and that's what I would have expected with the way the Yankees are playing and all the public money that tends to come in on the Yankees. Maybe that's what it is. It's if you're going to bet the Yankees, you just better do it right at the start, because you know what's coming when they get hot like this. But I'd like you, and we talked about that with the Padres. It's the same thing with Keller. It's all about relative to the market. And that's why we love Mitch Keller, because nobody realized he was good. And lo and behold, the model still has him. That's the 33rd best pitcher. That's really good.
Yeah.
And he's been solid for us, but it's like, yeah, but going up against this Yankees offense, I don't think it matters who's pitching right now with the way those guys are swinging the bats. And I'm not sure it's all the bats yet. I think they're helping, sure. We need to get more data, but like at this point, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to ride it until it stops because this is insane. And then whatever we find out later, we'll figure it out then and deal with it. But right now, I'm not asking questions. I'm just going with it. Of note, Mitch Keller was married in 2020. So he
I mean, about the same amount of time.
About the same amount of time. Unfortunately, they probably dated before that. So unless he was on like Love is Blind or something, which I feel like would have made headlines and I would have seen that.
Yeah. What's that show? 90 Day Fiance? I don't know. There's
like
ways.
50 of them. I don't even know.
There's ways. Don't crush my dreams. There's ways.
There's ways. We're going to wrap up here with the Rays and the Rangers. Because I'm going to be sad to leave this opening week because we've been able to a lot of times pick like an early day game, a late afternoon game, a night game, or like a day game, a night game, and a late game, right? And that's about to go away. We're about to be like to Tuesdays and Fridays where it's like nothing but night games. Mondays, nothing but night games. But here we got the day games taken care of. We got the night game here, 8 p.m. start will be in Arlington. The model says roof closed. The model thinks it might be a little chilly there in Arlington. If they open up the roof, that would probably decrease the expected total. I don't know what they're going to do there. That's obviously a question, but we saw last year this park really became a hitter's haven as the ball was just flying around out there. Both these teams have good offenses. The Rays number 6, the Rangers number 13, according to the model. Zach Littell for the Rays, always been a guy I've liked, always been fairly solid model, respectfully saying he's better than league average. Tyler Mahle, if I said that right, I don't know. Not so much, has been kind of a disappointment since his prospect days, I believe back with the Reds, as a guy who just hasn't really been able to figure it out. He didn't in his first start. That doesn't necessarily mean he can't hear, but the Rays offense is a whole lot better. The Rays bullpen, like we talked about last year, not one of their strengths anymore. We've got this as a 50-50 game where, the Rays offense might be a little better. Their starting pitcher's a little better. Rangers got the better bullpen at home. And so it's going to kind of all balance out there to pretty 50-50. We're not actually picking a side. We're going to go back to a total, bringing back cousin totals. I know, and you had some totals here lately this week already that have done well. Hopefully we can keep that going. We're going to go over 8.5 as the model projects 9.1. Cousin Jared, what do you like about this one?
I'll tell you what I like about this one. The Rays aren't playing the Rockies or the Pirates. That's what I like. I think that we could be Sideline could just be underestimating this a tad, just because the Rays' first 2 opponents are 2 of the worst offenses, if not the 2 worst offenses in baseball. And even then, we were having some of those Rays games end up with 6, 7, 8 runs.
They were close.
Yeah, they were close to going. I don't know however many actually went over, but they were close. Yeah. They were scoring a decent number of runs. The Rangers, of course, obviously raised that. So that's my number one thing here. And the second thing just being that we're able to go over 8.5 with 9 being such a common outcome. Even if you see a number like 9.1, I'm perfectly comfortable going over 8.5, even if it's a relatively small edge, just because of how key that 9 number is.
Love getting to 4-4 and then being able to turn the game off and be like, move on to the next one. I can scout the other games because there's something else happening right now. Or especially when I've got 4 games on at once, I can move that one to a lower one or move it off or whatever, bring something else in. Because I'm curious your take on this. If I think people might hear this over 8.5 and think, well, the Rays haven't gone over. They're playing in Florida. It was warm there. We don't know a lot about the park. And you talk about their opponent or whatever. So they may say, sure, but they might point to the Rangers playing back-to-back 1-0 games in Cincinnati, of all places. I think the day after a game that had like 15 runs in it or something. What do you make of all that? Because I'm not concerned personally, because my mantra is always just, let's look at the big picture, don't overreact. But I'm curious what your thoughts for someone who's like, whoa, look at what the Rangers just did. I'm scared of this.
Yeah. I think for me, that may be more about the Reds than the Rangers. And I will say this. Hunter Green had an amazing year last year. I had a hard time believing it just because so many of his numbers were so vastly different from what they were for the rest of his career. Of course, Hunter Green came out and looked great. against the Rangers again. Really, the Reds pitching staff, aside from that one game, maybe looked really good. So I just think that maybe the Reds pitching staff is doing better, and that may be it. And not so much that the Rangers don't have it on offense. I think the Rangers offense is fine. Like you mentioned, this was kind of playing more to a hitter's park in Arlington. So,
and I'll just add a couple of notes here. Hunter Green, obviously fantastic pitcher, better than both of these guys. Also, the last game in Cincinnati had 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing in from right field. That's going to kind of offset some of the whole that park's really tiny thing.
Yeah.
And then if you go back to the first 1-0 game, obviously Nathan Eovaldi, very good pitcher, better than both of these guys. 52 degrees, 53 degrees for most of that one in a night game. Not maybe the best hitting weather. Maybe you say that doesn't excuse 1-0 because 1-0 is kind of crazy. But in the game before, you saw a pitcher in Brady Singer who were fairly high on, Kumar Rocker, who the model was fairly high on, in a game that had 17 runs. So the way I would look at it, and that was a game that was also played in 40-degree weather. The way I would look at it is the one game had 17 runs. Maybe let's not worry about the one game or the two games, but say there were 19 runs total in that series, which means you're looking at 6 runs a game. And you say, yes, 6 runs a game is low. But when you think about, again, Hunter Green's not walking through that door, right? Yeah. Nathan Eovaldi's not walking through that door.
20-mile-an-hour winds in, which you're not going to have.
50-degree weather, right? Yeah. So it's like this is just a different setup. And so that's why I like this. That's why I think the books know this number should be 9, but I think they're making it 8.5 because I think they're afraid that everyone would just pile on the under after those last 2 games. And while books don't necessarily always try to exactly balance the money, they are trying to make sure it's not too far out of whack at minimum amidst other concerns that they have. That's, not something that we need to dive into here. And so 9.1, the expected total, we're going to over 8.5. Because that's all we got. Again, I got a long list of things to do. We're going to get Discord access for free. We'll have free picks there. That'll be a lot of fun whenever I get to that. Hopefully next week. I'm hoping we can kind of make some headway on some of these things. It's kind of crazy now with college basketball wrapping up, hockey still going on, baseball starting.
It's a busy time.
It's a busy time, and personal health things as well. It's gotten complicated. So hopefully we can get that rolling soon, viewer. But again, if you're not with us already, remember, check us out on Dub Club. Again, that link in the show description, get you half off. Cousin Jared, parting words to send us out for the weekend.
There was a lot of day baseball today. That was a lot of fun. Recording this on Thursday night. There'll be day baseball on Friday. To your point earlier, enjoy the weekday baseball while we have it, because it'll be short lived, and we'll be all mad that there's no day baseball, even though the baseball season just started. So enjoy it while you can, people. Days ball, as we call it, and there should be days ball every day. Yes, if the day ends in day, there should be days ball. As long as it's in the course of the season, but here we are. Again, we thank you for watching. We wish you the best of luck and remind you that while you can eat your betting money, please don't bet your eating money.